Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Cowboys granted surprise roster exemption for rookie with bright future. The Cowboys originally signed Illinois defensive tackle Denzel Jackson shortly after the NFL draft because they liked his raw makeup at the position, weighing in at 318 pounds with 33 3/8 inch arms and 10 1/4 inch hands. But it turns out that the reason Jackson is raw, he is from the Bahamas and did not begin playing football until he was 17 years old, will have an added benefit for the Cowboys. Jackson was classified as an international player last week, giving Dallas some extra roster wiggle room to keep him, at least on the practice squad. This summer, Jackson will not count against the 90-man roster the team brings to training camp, and when it comes time to sort out practice squad spots, he will not count against that 16-man roster limit either. The Cowboys can keep him on as a developmental player all season. It was front office staffer Kane Doyle-Durd who pointed out that Jackson qualified as for an international exemption, despite the fact that he'd played high school football in Florida and spent 4 years at Ohio before finishing his career at Illinois, where he played all 12 games last season. The Cowboys do need depth on the defensive line, but do not expect to see Jackson stepping onto an NFL field this season. He is very raw. He was not invited to the NFL Combine in February and ran a 5.51 40-yard dash during the Illini's Pro Day. He was never really considered a candidate to be drafted in April. Not only did Jackson not play as he was growing up in the Bahamas, but he also did not get on the field once he reached Ohio. He redshirted his first 2 seasons, and did not really begin playing until 2021, when he was already 22 years old. Jackson is 25 now. Said Cowboys VP Will McClay, per Cowboys.com, "It's a great bonus for us, it's a great bonus for him because that extra practice squad spot gives us an opportunity to develop him, gives us an extra player, gives him an extra opportunity to make the roster too from a practice squad standpoint." Though he is of advanced age for a raw rookie, Jackson has made quick progress, especially once he left Ohio and landed at Illinois with defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator Terrence Jamison, who is credited with coaching Jajon Newton, who was a potential Cowboys pick in 2024, into a high second-rounder. No doubt, it was while watching Newton that Jackson caught the eye of Cowboys personnel types. Though Jackson had not shined at Ohio, Jamison had an inkling he had untapped potential. "I look for the intangibles when I look at film," Jamison said, per 24/7 Sports. "Can he bend? Can he move laterally? Can he transition from speed to power? He showed all those things at that girth, at that size, and he played winning football at Ohio. They made the MAC championship, and he was a major contributor for those guys. He's a great student and also a good football player. To learn the game that fast and apply his athleticism to the game, you could see those elements when you see him play, when you see him practice. I think the sky's the limit. The future's bright for him." The Dallas Cowboys suddenly heavily linked to former wide receiver returning to the team. The Dallas Cowboys are going through yet another tumultuous offseason. That's not to say they haven't improved this offseason, but it's one where they're reflecting on what could have been last season. However, one former player has been linked to the team that would make for an interesting addition. Dallas offense consistency comes under scrutiny when they underperform in the playoffs. Could adding a savvy veteran make any kind of difference at all? In an article by LP Cruz of SB Nation, "At this stage in the offseason, you're looking for minimal risk with an even lesser commitment if things don't work out. However, the reward for adding Randall Cobb heavily overshadows the risk of returning him to Dallas. First, there's the connection Randall Cobb has with Mike McCarthy, who the Green Bay Packers drafted in 2011. Then, remember the last good season Cobb had been with Dak Prescott in 2019, when Cobb had 79 receptions for 829 yards as the third receiver in the offense before parlaying that performance into a sizable contract with the Houston Texans. Dallas is counting on the youth at wide receiver to assume the third receiver duties behind CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks in the form of Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks. Still, Cobb is an extra precaution if something falters with the Brooks and Tolbert. Again, by the preseason, the Cowboys should know where Cobb, Brooks, and Tolbert stand, so they can if they need to cut their losses with Cobb if they need to. At 33 years old, Cobb probably won't get even his salary last season of $3 million, and much of his contract could be non-guaranteed. The Jets used Cobb on just 37% of offensive snaps last season, according to a source. He has recorded 4 catches for 35 yards and a touchdown while playing alongside quarterbacks other than Rodgers. It will be interesting to see if Cobb tries to play again with Prescott or Rodgers. Dallas Cowboys holdout wide receiver CeeDee Lamb is looking for the really big money in the wake of Justin Jefferson's 4-year, $140 million, $110 million guaranteed, contract extension with the Minnesota Vikings. To showcase his displeasure with not yet receiving a deal, the 25-year-old star receiver, who is currently set to play out the season on the 5th-year deal from his rookie contract, did not show up for OTAs or mandatory minicamp. Well, the disgruntled Cowboy recently took to social media and dropped a cryptic message that could be taken any number of ways. So, what does this mean, exactly? This one-line message could actually be taken one of 2 ways. Maybe he's implying that he sees the end of the tunnel when it comes to contract talks, and a deal may be imminent. Also, however, he could be saying that he sees that no deal is coming through and that it's finally becoming real, that his days as a Cowboy are done. If the words of veteran NFL analyst Adam Schefter are accurate, though, Lamb's message may more likely be a goodbye than an I'm coming back. Cowboys workout UFL Jonathan Garvin. Following a standout season in the UFL, Jonathan Garvin is attracting interest from NFL squads. According to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, the defensive end worked out for the Cowboys today. The former 7th-round pick out of Miami managed to stick on the Packers roster for the first 3 years of his career. His largest role came in 2021, when he got into about 40% of his team's defensive snaps while compiling 19 tackles and 1.5 sacks. His defensive snaps were cut in half during the 2022 campaign, and the lineman ended up getting cut by the Packers last July. Garvin didn't get an NFL gig during the 2023 campaign, but he ended up re-emerging with the Birmingham Stallions of the UFL. He had a productive season for the eventual league champs, finishing with 20 tackles and 3.5 sacks. At only 24 years old, Garvin still has plenty of upside. The 6'4", 257-pound defensive lineman would be hard-pressed to earn snaps behind Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and it's worth noting that the organization recently used a 2nd-round pick on defensive end Marshawn Kneeland. If Dallas ends up adding the UFL standout, the player will likely be competing with the likes of Sam Williams, Darrell Johnson, and Viliami Fehoko Jr. for one of the final DE spots. Garvin's experience on special teams provides him with an additional path to a roster spot. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Jonathan Garvin? Leave your opinion in the comments.